for our team. If you have your Bible, you can open to Ezra chapter 1 and Luke chapter 12. You know how those big study Bibles have two ribbons? That's for old-fashioned preachers. Two verses. That's for some Robert Morris type preaching. Two verses. One in the Old Testament, one in the New Testament. We are wrapping up this morning a 6-week series that we've been in that has structured a season of ministry for us that is really finding its crescendo today in our One Life offering. Today's Commitment Sunday for the One Life Initiative. And those of us who call Christ Church home, whether you're on site here in person or part of our live streaming family, we've prepared our offerings, and that's really a big deal for us, and so that's what today is about. Now, I know there's always people who come to church for the first time. Every single Sunday we have people for the first time, and I just want you to know that we love you. We're so glad you're here. This is why we're doing what we're doing, is because we want you to be here, and the people you know and love, and the people you don't, and the people that hate you, we want them to come too, all of them. Everybody's welcome. But I know when you're here for the first time and you're like coming into a Sunday that's like this one, which don't happen very often, it's kind of like your neighbors inviting you over for dinner finally, and then you come, and it turns out it's their daughter's engagement party. And all their other friends are there, and they've all brought gifts, and you're like, I brought wings. I don't know. So there's like this little awkward tension of like, should we be here right now? I don't know. But we're so glad you're here. And because we turn our attention Godward, and because we are seeking the movement of the Holy Spirit in our lives, and because we are looking to God's word, no matter who you are, no matter what you came for, you're going to receive what God has intended for you. Amen? This season, we've really been focusing in on John chapter 1, verse 4. It's where the theme of One Life came from. The NIV says it this way: in him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. In the past 6 weeks, we have explored what it means to have Jesus as the one source of true life, that there is not life to be found anywhere else. There's not life to be found in wealth. There's not life to be found in relationships. There's not life to be found in success. There's not even life to be found in church, because the only reason we find life in church is because we find Jesus in church. Can I get an amen? And so he's the one source. And he came and died and rose again that we might receive eternal life and find him as that one source. And then he commissioned his followers, his disciples, and there's one mission, and that's to get that good news of eternal life out to everybody. And every single one of us have a part to play. We have one calling. You have a calling in that mission. It's unique. It's important. It's essential. No one can do it for you. And so we looked at one source, one mission, one calling. We took some time to look at the fact that as a church we have one purpose, and there can be a synergy when we fulfill our calling together, when we build up the body, and when we go out empowered and strengthened one with another. There's one purpose that we have. And last week we closed the teaching series looking at our one legacy, that we want to do this not just for us and those of us who are here now, but for coming generations, for our children, for our grandchildren, for the yet unborn, for people who we've never seen and may never see. We're doing this for them too. It's not just about us. And so we're giving into the future. And so this morning is Commitment Sunday. And I just want to remind you that the purpose of this initiative is to engage your faith. It's spiritual before it's financial. This is about you growing in your walk with God and depending on him and in practicing new spiritual disciplines and deeper, bigger, stronger ones to engage with God for spiritual growth. We really wanted to inspire 100% participation in sacrificial, meaningful generosity to fulfill this mission. We've had a timeline. For months we've been preparing. Weeks we had planning meetings. We had 5 Sundays, 2 vision nights, 24-hour prayer event, and a partridge in a pear tree to get here. And here we are. This is the moment when the culmination of everything we've prayed about, asked God for, considered, and committed to is coming to fruition. Our goals are to build a larger adult worship space and then to renovate this whole space for our over 150 kids who are under 12 years old and who will all be returning. They'll be going to school full-time and going back to church, and it's going to get rowdy around here. We do have a mid-project goal of building an outdoor covered pavilion, so there is some flex space for us to use throughout the week and also on Sundays, and for people who aren't comfortable indoors with large gatherings, have a place to sit outside, pipe the sermon, the music out there. So that'll be happening mid-project. We are trying to raise $2 million, which is an extreme goal for a church of our size and income. in this area, but we feel like that's what God's put in our hearts, so that's what we're aiming for. But really, we want to see everybody engage. And if everybody does engage, then we should see about 200 families total make a commitment to One Life, the families that call Christ Church home, and show that through their participation in giving. So we'd want to see 200 plus people engaging. And so that's what this morning's about. We are kind of concluding this season and getting back to life as normal, which means Thursday large groups are starting back up. So we got Mighty Men happening this Thursday, which we're excited to be together again as men and women and couples and families. Youth starts up on February 17th, so the Well's back at it, middle school and high school, and we're looking forward to engaging more with one another. But this morning, I want to ask you a question as we begin. I want to ask you, what's in your heart? You thought I was going to say, what's in your wallet? What's in your heart? Because it doesn't actually matter what's in your wallet. It doesn't matter what's in your account. It doesn't matter what's in your 401k. It doesn't matter what's in your investment portfolio. All of us have varying degrees of stability and income and wealth, all of us. And it really has nothing to do with that. But every one of us, if you're alive and still awake, you have a heart, and God's after that heart. He's after it. He wants it. He wants all of it. And the more of your heart you give to him, the more of his heart you get to experience. We talked about that invisible string between our money and our heart, and that is what this is about. What's in your heart? Ezra chapter 1, verses 1 to 6, opens with a miracle. I mean, a miracle. In the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled. The Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia. This is a miracle because Cyrus was not the duly elected leader of the known world. He was the conquering ruler of the world and had taken the Israelites from Israel after conquering them in their land and exiled them to his land, and he owned them as slaves. And so it was not a good year. You thought 2020 was bad? Try being an Israelite in 586 BC. And in the middle of that deportation and exile and destruction, God spoke through the prophet Jeremiah to say, a day is coming when I'm going to raise up not an Israelite leader, not a Jewish king, but a Persian king who was yet unborn when the prophecy was given. And his name will be Cyrus, and I'm going to commission him to rebuild the temple. What a weird prophecy. And Ezra opens in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled. God did a miracle. He stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, pagan king, dominating, destroying king, so that he made a proclamation throughout all of his kingdom and also put it in writing. Everybody gets excited when politicians speak, but we care about what's in writing, don't we? Here's what it said. Verse 2, thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord, God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he has charged me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Whoever is among you of all his people, may his God be with him, and let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and rebuild the house of the Lord, the God of Israel. He is the God who is in Jerusalem. Let each survivor, isn't that great? He's saying, anybody that wants to go back, any of you guys who we didn't kill, the survivors, can go back to where we destroyed. In whatever place he sojourns, may he be assisted by the men of his place with silver and gold and goods and with beasts, besides free will offerings for the house of God that is in Jerusalem. Verse 5, this is the response of the heads of the households of the exiled Jews. Then rose up the heads of the fathers' houses of Judah and Benjamin, 2 of the 12 tribes, and the priests and the Levites, everyone whose spirit God had stirred. And so God stirs Cyrus, and then God stirs the spirits of his people. I love the NIV says, everyone whose heart God had moved, prepared to go up to rebuild the house of the Lord that is in Jerusalem. And the section closes in verse 6, and all who were about them, aided with the vessels of silver, with gold, with goods, with beasts, and with costly wares, besides all that was freely offered. And that's what we're doing this morning. All of us are doing our part. It's going to look different for everybody. We can't give what we don't have. We can only give from what we do have, but all of us are seeking to participate, and that's our goal, is 100% participation. In Ezra 2:69, we are told that they gave according to their ability to the treasury. 61 derricks of gold. How many of you guys know how much a derrick is? I was having a hard time with that one. 61,000 derricks of gold, 5,000 minas of silver, and 100 priests' garments. And they did this because their heart was in it. They did this because God had spoken to his faithfulness, that he was going to return his people to the promised land, that he was going to rebuild the temple, he was going to dwell with them again, and now he had done it. They had seen a miracle, and they had now been ready to respond. And so God had poured out his heart, and God's people were stirred, and they poured out their heart, and that is really what we're doing this morning. And I know God's getting your heart. I know it. And it's not just like that, know it like I'm the pastor and I see it in your eyeballs. I can tell, you know? We tell our kids that we can tell when they're lying. I can tell when you're lying. It's on your forehead. It is? Yeah, it is. I don't have any secret powers to tell what's in your heart. But you know how I know that God's getting your heart? Because I hardly ever talk about money, ever. But in January, that's pretty much all we talked about. And we talked about what giving looks like, what stewardship looks like, how God wants us to live, how he wants us to make money, and what he wants us to do with it, and how he wants us to honor him in our giving. And I told you what the condition of Christ Church was. I told you about the people who are the most committed to seeing Christ Church succeed, that are funding ministry for everybody else. And I told you our church is kind of typical. 20% of the people pay about 70% of the bills. There's 10% of them at the top that are really courageously giving. About half of people give nothing, and about half of the people that give something give almost nothing. And I said, that's typical, but let's not be typical. And just in January alone, this is how I know God's got your heart. Just in January alone, 30 new people started giving to Christ Church. 30. That's 10% of our total gifts from last year. 30 new people started giving to Christ Church. And check this out. This is just a regular offering. This isn't anything special. We hadn't even asked for an offering yet. This is just, we were talking about what we were going to do, talking about what God's called us to do. 30 new people said, I'm going to start giving right away. And January, which historically is our lowest giving month, and it's lowest giving month because people are generous in December and because they spend too much money in December and there's none left in January. Do you know that? So it's a combination. People are like, I'll write a big check in December. We have a big December. And then January is always small. So January, 35% above budget. January. Typically 20% below budget for January. So when I look at that, I say, yeah, I think God's got some people's hearts. I think there's an invisible string that just connected to the very heart of God. And so we celebrate that. And as we prepare to give our One Life offerings, for those of us who are part of Christ Church, we're not asking you if you're here and it's your first Sunday, if you're brand new, we're not asking you to participate. We're thinking about what God's wanting us to do. We've been praying about it. And it's been a journey. Our kids have been involved. Tammy, who oversees Christ Church Kids in Motion, she was getting the kids engaged. Do you know that our kids, littles, I'm talking 4 years to 11 years old, they were doing chores and making money, competing against each other, boys and girls. That's how to get kids to give money, is to compete in boys to girls, right? And the girls always wipe the floor with the boys, and that happened. They tried to close the gap there at the end, boys. It was too late. They were too short. But you know, the kids back there with their chores and dollars and coins, they brought in over $280. $280. $280. And my little daughter, Evie, 11 years old, started making bracelets and selling bracelets for One Life, and she's got a few left, by the way. It's a little shameless plug. And when she sells them all, not if, when she sells them all, she's putting $400 total profits from those bracelets right into One Life, 11 years old. So everybody's making an effort. And the size, it really isn't about the size. And I just want to bring you into this journey for me personally and for our family. Because I told you from day one that this Sunday, this big Sunday, this is a really big Sunday, and there's also a football game later. This Sunday, I was going to ask you to give courageously, consistently, and creatively. I was going to ask you to give courageously. I was going to ask you to consider giving a really, really big offering today, like bigger maybe than you've ever done before, like pushing yourself to the limit, like looking to see everything you have and going, how much of this can I manage to not keep? And that's huge. And then even with that, most of us can't do enough to reach our goal. And so I was asking you to be courageous now, but then also to be consistent, to commit to look at your budget, to look at your income and to go, where can I find some margin and where can I be sacrificial for 2 years, for 24 months, and every month write a small check over and over and over and over again to make a big number. And then how can I do that creatively? How can I think outside the box from just money? How can I go, what do I have? What has God given to me? What can I liquidate, and where can I pull resources from that I wouldn't necessarily consider, just cash? And so, I told you early on, as I thought about how our family could give courageously, consistently, and creatively, I knew that we could make some room and increase our giving. We actually make room every single year to increase our giving. That's a commitment for the Jarvises. We always go, how can we give more this year than we gave last year? Even if it's just a little tiny bit. We want to keep pushing. So we always do that. So we knew we were going to do that. But we wanted to go big, and so we're a young family, 4 small children. We own a home, which means we have a mortgage, and all the expenses. And so we're limited amount of savings, and we're going, okay, how much can we give? And then how can we give creatively? And so my solution, which I told you about, was I thought about selling my Mustang, my superfluous third car, my quasi-midlife crisis, the joy of my commute. I thought about, it's worth several $1,000s. It's not epically expensive. It's not a 68 GT500, but it's worth high 4 digits. And so I was like, well, I can sell that and have this big lump sum, and I can give that to the One Life, and then we can make some room. And that's creative, and it's courageous, and it's consistent. And so, of course, my children objected immediately. They wanted a cool dad. And talked to Tiffany about it, my wife, and she was giving me the pushback. And she's like, no, you just got that a year and a half ago. It took you a long time to be able to get it, and it was really a reward, and it's such a blessing to you. Like, she didn't want to do that, and she didn't also want me to bear all the sacrifice, because really, we'd sell the car, and then our life would not really change. We have the same amount of money in our bank account. We'd make some adjustment monthly. We wouldn't really feel it. The kids wouldn't feel it. She wouldn't feel it. And so we started talking about what would we feel and what would that look like. And so I'm happy to report to you guys that the Mustang is off the chopping block. All right, so I pulled the ad. I did have one serious offer. Somebody offered me high 4 digits. It was less than I was hoping to get for it, but I had one serious offer, so I was right there trying to push and pull. And so we sat down as a family, and we started asking the question, like, what would it look like for us to give? And I really wanted to go big. You remember that arrow I showed you, the arrow of how we're all going to kind of commit, the arrow of progress to us meeting our goals? And there's some like little cells in that Excel spreadsheet that have some 6-digit numbers and a bunch of 5-digit and a bunch of 4-digit and a ton of 3-digit. And I was thinking, I know I can be in one of those bottom couple cells. And I was like, what would it look like for us to be a 5-digit family? How could we do that? So Tiffany and I started talking about it, and we realized the only way we'd be able to do that would be today to write a check for $2,800, which would kind of clean out all of our available savings, that slush fund. That's like, okay, God, you got the washer and dryer and the tires and we'd have to write that check. That would take all of it. And then we'd have to go $300 a month for 24 months to hit 10,000. And we were like, woo! That's exciting, exhilarating, and scary. And so we felt like that's the right feeling. And so we're not asking anybody to publicly tell anybody else. It's none of anybody else's business between you and God, but I just want to tell you as your pastor how we're thinking through it. And so we're so excited to be able to commit today to $10,000 for One Life and keep the Mustang, which ironically has become my fallback plan if I can't make this $300 a month thing work out. So at least I have this like security of like, well, there's always the Mustang. Could always sell the Mustang. And who knows? We might get to the end of 2 years and be just shy, and maybe we can even double our offering by then. Who knows? But listen, it's not about the number. Because like many of you, our family's already committed to honoring God in our giving already before One Life. And so we have a plan to give over $7,000 to Christ Church in 2021 and in 2022. And another $3,000 elsewhere outside of Christ Church in 2021 and 2022. So we're looking at $30,000 over 2 years, which is just like mind-blowing. You think about what you could do. If I think about what I could do with an extra $30,000 in 2 years, a lot of things. And so we want our giving to be really like you feel it and it matters to you, and it's a reflection of your priorities. You see that? And this is how we want to be thinking about it. But it doesn't matter if your number is $100 or $1,000 or $100,000. Just saying. It's the heart that's behind those numbers. Do you know that? It's the heart. God is after every single one of our hearts. And we're going to engage in certain ways, and there's this way we can find to engage where we feel like we're giving God all of our heart. Like now I have to trust God in a new way. More than I did when I had $300 extra of margin monthly. More than I did when I had some emergency savings. I have to trust God now in a different kind of way. And so I'm literally giving him more of my heart through this One Life offering. Do you see that? And so this is what we're after. And so it's not about the number, it's about the heart behind the number. Now there's three kinds of givers, and I talked about this 2 weeks ago. There's the means givers, the margin givers, and the miracle givers. The means givers are those who have stored wealth. And some of you have been so diligent, so hardworking, you have worked so hard, or in a combination too, or also have inherited wealth, and you have means, like you have access to large sums of money. And so there's people with means. And then there's those of us who, we started from the bottom, now we're here, you know? We started with nothing, and now we have a little more than nothing. I have Credit Karma, and I love watching my net worth approach zero. It's so exciting. You're like, it's coming, zero's coming, you know? We're paying down the mortgage, and zero's coming. You're looking at Zillow, house value, and mortgage, and you're going, we're almost to zero, babe. Yes. So some of us, we have, God's provided us good jobs, stable jobs. We have income, we're paying the bills, we're doing the things, we're loving people, we're loving God, we're loving life. And that's the margin people. It's a bunch of us right there. And there's always people, and God's bringing you through the season maybe, or maybe this has been your lot in life, but you're a miracle giver, as in it would take a miracle for me to be able to give in a meaningful and sacrificial way. And I told you a couple weeks ago, that's where I grew up, is miracle. I mean, the miracles for us growing up were not what we could give, and we gave something. We always did. My dad and my mom taught us, you always give out of what you have. But 10% of almost nothing is almost nothing, right? And so we did that. But the miracles we experienced was the miracles of what God did for us through other people over and over and over. Miracles of bags of clothes, of Thanksgiving dinners, of presents from people you didn't expect, of cards being given to your family, of expenses being covered, of things coming in the mail you never expected. And so the miracles were always coming in our direction. And so to be a miracle giver actually is a really, really cool thing. To be in that season or to be in that position, sometimes God will leave you there for your whole life. The question is, what will you do with your miracle? If you're a means giver, there's a reorientation towards your heart, towards your wealth, and then towards God. There's a reorientation that has to take place. If you're a margin giver, there's a reprioritization that has to take place. You have to go, I used to want to contribute here, now I have to move that from here to here. I canceled my cable. I don't know why I didn't do that years ago. Oh my gosh. Last fall, I decided I hate cable, and now I'm not funding them anymore. They had no more of my money. It's all going to One Life. You know what? If I was a smoker, I would quit smoking. What could you quit? What could you give up? What could you turn off? How many places could you not eat out, or how less frequently? So you can find margin when you reprioritize. But for the miracle people, you have to actually pray for the miracle, and then you have to be ready for the miracle. So I want to talk to my miracle people for a second. I want to talk to you. Because I want you to ask God specifically what he wants to put in your heart to do. Maybe you've been doing this already. Maybe you're right there and you go, God's told me this number, this is what he wants me to give, and I don't know where it's going to come from. But listen, if he puts it in your heart, he's going to provide it. Do you know that? The question is, will you be ready to respond in faith to the miracle God provides? It reminds me of a story I heard about a young husband. Got some young husbands in the room who failed to buy his wife a Christmas present until Christmas Eve. So he gets off work at 5 o'clock on Christmas Eve and goes to the mall, and the mall's closing in 30 minutes, and he's driving around the parking lot trying to find a place to park, and he's got to get in there and get a present. He's feeling all this anxiety and all this pressure. And Christian dude, goes to church 1.7 times a month and gives marginally 2% of his income. And he says to God, I need a parking space now. Listen, if you give me a parking space, I will go to church every Sunday next year. And just then, a car backs out of the very first space. And he says, never mind, I found one. Right? I think it's easy for us miracle giver people to sometimes come at it like that, to go, God, I want to do this thing, I want to do this thing, I want to do this thing, I want to do this thing. And they're like, here's the thing. And you're like, oh, sweet, vacation, yeah, So are you ready for your miracle? Ask for it specifically, pray for it. Don't be ashamed that that's the position you're in. God's word is clear. He loves making people poor sometimes. There's a lot of prosperity teaching out there that says God wants to make you rich, 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 rich. Sometimes God's like, I'm going to make him poor. Watch what he does when he's poor for 30 years. He has no problem at all. The Bible tells us he got the righteous poor and the unrighteous poor, the righteous wealthy and the unrighteous wealthy. And God determines the boundaries. And he also gives wisdom, and there's ways to obviously overcome that. I'm not saying that God's after you, but if you're in a season of not having enough, lean into the heart of God. Pray for your miracle and be ready to respond in faith, because in him is life, not in wealth. This is the point of Luke 12, and where I'll conclude. This is the second verse that we're going to look at, Luke chapter 12. This is the period in Luke's gospel where Jesus has made the movement towards Jerusalem. So he knows what he's there to do. He's there not just to teach people about God. He's there not just to do miracles and attest to the power of God. He's not just there to prophesy about the provision of God and his faithfulness. He's there to die for God, for man, as man. That's what he's there to do. And so in Luke chapter 9, Jesus takes that movement toward Jerusalem, toward his own death. And everything that happens between chapter 9 and chapter 19 happens with Jesus having the mentality about giving his life so that all mankind might have life. Do you understand? And so in these chapters between 9 and 19, Jesus is having all these interactions. He's teaching all these things. And when you recognize what Jesus knows he's there to do, it kind of changes the way that you read what Jesus says. And in Luke chapter 12 and verse 13, Jesus is teaching, and someone interjects to get Jesus' attention because he wants Jesus to do him a solid and help him out. And so he says, someone in the crowd, verse 13, said to Jesus, "Teacher," pick me, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Public question. Everybody's listening. He's asking Jesus. Now, we don't know the situation. In ancient Near Eastern culture, all inheritance was kept in the family. That's how family wealth was built, and you stayed on the family property, and you managed the family business, and you took care of the family members, and the family grew, and so it was the sons, the first and oldest sons, that kind of held the majority of the inheritance. And so if you were a younger son, or you weren't going to get all the inheritance, you would get a portion of that. But then it was the oldest son, or the firstborn, not always genetically, biologically, or even in birth order, but there was a chosen son that was going to be the one that would take the family farm, essentially become the new patriarch. And so this lesser son is saying, "Hey, will you tell him what to do with the inheritance so I get my fair share?" That's probably all he was asking for, is make sure I get my fair share. And you got to love Jesus, because Jesus could have directed him to a bunch of Old Testament passages that talk directly about this issue. Could have asked them 3 questions. Where are you in the birth order? And what is coming to you? And how long has your father been? And what are you asking for? Are you looking to liquidate? He could have asked all those questions and then gone to the Old Testament and given him an answer. Here's what Jesus says. "Man, who made me judge or arbiter over you?" He's like, why are you coming to me to sort out your financial issue? Why are you asking for that? I'm not your judge. And he said to them. Now, I don't know if them means the crowd, including this man, or if it's the brothers. Could be all of the above. But look at what he says. And he said to them, "Take care, watch out, be careful. Be on your guard against all covetousness." Covetousness is wanting what's not yours. This is the spirit of advertising. I didn't even want a cheeseburger, now I do. Didn't even want a new car, now I do. Wasn't even unhappy with my life, and now I am. That's why we don't watch TV. Take care and be on your guard against all covetousness. Social media. My life is better than your life, and now you are comparing yourself to me and coveting. Watch out, Jesus says. Why? Here's why. Listen. For one's life does not consist in the abundance of possessions. And so here we have this guy coming to Jesus with his fixation and his fix. You guys ever done that? That was like all my early prayers were that. All my early prayers. When I was a teenager, "God, what do you want me to do with my life? I mean, I know you want me to be wealthy and successful and happy with a hot wife. But you know? And you're like, tell me, do I do this, do I do that? I want to find it. And you're fixated, and you come to God with your fix. Fix it! He's like, am I your fixer? Is that what you want me to be, your fixer? You want me to just sort it all out for you and give you all the, here you go. Walk this way, do these things, take that job, don't go here, don't talk to her, call her back. Right? Is that what you're looking for? We all do it. But here comes Jesus with a warning and a redirect and a truth bomb. He says, look out. Look out for looking at what your brother has and feeling like that's what I need, that's what I want. That's what will make me happy. That's what will give me security. And I deserve it because I'm the good son. And then you turn God into your fixer. Because covetousness is a symptom of a heart that's seeking life in material possessions. Do you know that? That's seeking to find life from stuff, from security. I will have the life I want. I'll have the good life, the sweet life. You know? That good life. If I just have the security of the stuff, if I can feel good. So he says, that's not where life is found. He says, Jesus is making the point, money is the great revealer of what you're seeking to find life in. But money is a terrible source of life. You will never find life in wealth. And so he told him a parable, verse 16. The land of a rich man produced plentifully, and he thought to himself, what shall I do? For I have nowhere to store all my crops. Isn't that a great question to be pondering? What am I going to do with all my money? This bank's only insured up to $150,000. I don't know where I'm going to put all this other money to keep it safe. You guys are like, those are my problems right there. That's what I'm looking for. What shall I do? I have nowhere to store my crops. And he said, I will do this. I will tear down my little bitty barns, and I will build bigger barns. And there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry. Now I'm poking fun at it a little bit, this guy, but this is basically every middle-aged American with a 401k, checking their little letter in the mail, looking at the Social Security and dividend check and going, when can I retire? This is not like, Jesus is like telling a story that's like the American dream, isn't he? I had a good year, put some money away, I'm going to do good. Woo! It's my kind of problems. What does Jesus do? And I think everybody hearing him is thinking, this guy's awesome. He's entrepreneurial. He's taken some risks. He's had huge successes. He's wise. He's finding ways to manage his wealth. But Jesus says, actually, though, something's missing. And the thing that you think will give you security, the thing that you think will be a source of life to you, is the wrong thing. And I will say to my soul, he continues this conversation with himself, soul, you have ample goods. You're good. Eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, fool! Fool in Greek is a cuss word. I don't know if you know that or not. The Bible is all clean. It's all cleansed for your intake, for your ingestion. When Jesus said fool, that'd be like me saying, see, I'm not even going to say it, right? I'm like, I'll just lose everybody. All the parents are like, oh my gosh, took my kids to church and they learned new words. Jesus says, fool. There's not words to describe it. Idiot, no. Moron, no. Stupid, no. I got to go deeper. I got to go back to my construction history to reach into a word to translate this. Fool, this night your soul is required of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be? You got all your money stored up, and guess what? Just getting passed off to somebody else. Now, I think Jesus is brilliant. You got to love that Jesus started with an interaction of two boys going, whose will it be? And he ends with a story asking the question, whose will it be? But the revelation is that the thing you think will give you life will never give you life. And when you find the true source of life, you can truly be rich. Do you know that? You see, it's hard to see rich in the mirror. You look in the mirror and you go, not rich, enough. You look at people who are richer than you and you go, that's rich. You know what I mean? And you look at people with less money than you and you're like, I don't know how they do it. It's a miracle. How do they do it? But we can't see rich in the mirror. This is why no one ever comes to confess like greed. No one ever comes. I've been a pastor 20 years. No one's ever come to me and said, I feel like God showed me I'm just so greedy. No one's ever said that to me, ever. Never. And I've never said that to me. Because you can't see greed at all. It's invisible. Because you feel like I'm doing what I can do right here, and I'd love to be right there, but I'm doing what I'm doing right here, And they're rich. You can't see rich in the mirror, and you can't oftentimes perceive when the symptom of covetousness or greed is present. But listen, God says, you fool. Your life is going to be over, and this is going to go to somebody else. And then here's the truth bomb, verse 21. So is the one, that means you and you and you and you and you and me, this guy right here. So is the one who lays up treasure for himself and, somebody say and. This is a very important and, because God's not saying don't save up money. This is not me trying to say, God wants you to give me all the money, all of it. Saving up money is good. Laying up treasure is awesome. Do that. Make more money. Be creative, be entrepreneurial, take risks, have great years, put money away. Absolutely. Absolutely. But don't forget the and. So you're a fool if you only lay up treasures for yourself. But God wants you to do that and be rich towards God. Both things. Because what happens when you do that is you take your heart and you connect it to the heart of God. And you commit by faith to say, that is the source of my life. He is the source of my life. Money will do nothing for me, but I will use it to be rich towards God. And that doesn't matter if you have $1 or $100 or $100,000 or $100 million. God is after your heart. One 16th century commentator said, Jesus came not to be the divider of men's estates, but to become the director of their consciences. And I would add to that, he came to be the donor of his life-giving spirit. So, now it's time for our offering. Now that we give God our heart, it is time for us to give God our heart by giving God our riches. And I'm excited. I really am. I'm nervous and excited. I got all the butterflies. Woo! Feels weird. We're gonna do a few things differently, and I'm gonna explain them to you. I do want to say a couple disclaimers. I love Ezra 2:69, according to their ability. Please, please, please do not give to One Life with your credit card, okay? We are not asking anybody to incur debt to participate. Do you hear me? Do you hear me? Loud and clear? This is according to your ability, give. Yes, you should feel it. Yes, it should be as big as you can go. It should be as consistent, plan. All those things are true. Creatively, yes. We're not asking people to go into debt to contribute. That would be bad. Wrong answer. Okay. I don't know. I just felt like I need to say that. And some of you who are miracle givers, you haven't had your miracle. And you're looking at what you can give, and it seems marginal. What can I do? So there's some people that love you and want to support you and want to promote you extending this act of grace, this act of faith. And so I mentioned 2 weeks ago, that a family had offered $25,000 in kickoff offering matching donations. So you give $1, they give $1. You give $5, they give $5. You give $100, they give $100, up to $25,000, which means whatever you can give can be literally doubled. Well, 2 other families were inspired by that, and so now the number has gone to $65,000 today. $65,000. So there's 63 families have 65 grand. They're willing to say, dollar for dollar, I'll match you. I dare you to push it to the limit. I dare you. So 65,000. Also, we reached out to our staff, our leaders, board of directors, and our lead givers, those who are like that top 10% of people that give heroically. They didn't even know who they were. They were just doing their thing, just supporting the church. Some of them didn't do anything else. That's all they did. They just come, serve, whatever, watch kids, write a check. And we said, hey, you're a leader. You didn't know it, but you're a leader. You're setting the example for giving. And we want to ask you if you would consider an early offering so that we can say to our church family, we're behind this, we're committed, and we're going to get this ball rolling. And so just 18 families, of the 200 or so we're expecting to give, 18 families this past Thursday committed $251,800 to our $2 million goal. So before kickoff offering, before our courageous giving, and before our commitments at the end of 2 years, this is where we're starting, right here. Isn't that awesome? 18 families. That's an average of $14,000 per family. This is amazing. And I know what some of those people get paid, and it's not very much, because they work for me. So here we are, and we're going to make our offerings. You guys have your little thing? Hey, listen, if you're here and you're not giving, don't feel awkward or weird. We're not pressuring anybody, but if you have your offering, there's 4 boxes on there with your information. Put your information in there, 4 boxes. Here's what we're asking for you to do. And there's a digital version for this as well. So if you go to our website, there's a button, online commitment card. Bill put together an awesome little instructional video showing you how to do it. And so we're gonna give our offering. Now our regular offerings, tithes and offerings that would just support regular ministry, I saw you guys already putting them in the box when you came in, box in the back of this wall, box in the wall in the lobby. That's where our regular offering goes. But this is our special offering, and so we have a special box, a third box. This is our box. And we're gonna actually put it right here. And during our last song, we're gonna come out of our seats and put it in as an act of worship. We're gonna be in music saying to God, this is an act of worship to you. And we're gonna, in the darkness, slide our card and our check into this box. And so this is your opportunity to do that. I mentioned already how the Jarvises went through those 4 boxes for us. Kickoff offering, $2,800. Monthly offering, $300. Check the month, 300 times 24 is $7,200, and 28 and 72 is $10,000. That's what our card looks like, and so you write yours in there too, whatever it is. Doesn't matter the amount, has nothing to do with the amount, has everything to do with your heart. And then we're going to give God our heart. We're gonna look to him as the source of life, and we're gonna make our best offering. There are also bunches of other options. I've had all the questions. Do I have to write 2 checks? No, but you can. It makes it easier for us and for you. I want to donate, but I have to liquidate some stocks. Don't do it! Wait! Because you can donate the stocks without a huge tax burden. You can actually just gift the stocks, and then we can liquidate them, no taxes. So all the money goes to One Life, and none of it goes to the government. Yeah, you guys are really excited about that. Yeah, they're doing a great job with all the money, so we'll keep it. There are e-giving options, but with all e-giving, there is also associated fees. So if you swipe your card, debit card, credit card, it's not for debt, but you swipe it, we're paying 2.9% and a transaction fee. So if you're making a big contribution, that number grows, so we can avoid those by giving checks and cash. But you can also text to give if you've ever done that. It's really easy. A lot of people do this to me. I'm like, I don't get it. My mother-in-law loves text to give. She's like, I just write in the number and there it goes. So you text a dollar amount. And I know there's some people who are like not tech savvy, like not text savvy, but tech savvy. So if you open up a text message, in the to box, you put the number 84321. That's the number. It's not a phone number. It's just 5 digits, but in the to box. And then in the messaging box, you just put the cash sign and a number. It could be $1, it could be $10, it could be $1,000. Well, let's see how many zeros fit in there. I don't even know. And then when you do that, it'll send you a link that you enter your information. You enter it one time. And then anytime after that you want to give, you just text that number, any dollar amount, and it automatically just transfers. And there's no fees involved. So it's awesome. If you want it to be to One Life, you just put the word One Life in there with no space. So you do $100, space, One Life, no spaces, ONELIFE. And it'll recognize that as a different from your regular, if you regularly text give, and it'll go to 2 different accounts. And so it's all set up. And I'm here, I'll hang out if you have any questions about how to do this. But anybody that needs a card, Dennis has them. If you need a card, you can raise your hand and one of the ushers will bring you one. And then as we give, and for those of you even online, and man, you guys online, we've had people that have not been to church since March, but have been giving ever since then, and are participating in the One Life offering. Isn't that amazing? They have not sat in a seat in almost a year, and yet their heart is still in it. It's amazing to me. Last 2 things, and then we're going to stand, sing during the song, come out of our seats, put our offering in the box. 2 things. I just want to remind you, I've said this before, but your One Life commitment card is not a check. I cannot take that to the bank. So you have to do that with a check. Just want to make sure everybody knows that's silly. And then lastly, we don't want any giver's regret. Anybody ever had buyer's remorse? We don't want anybody feeling sick in the parking lot today. So before you give your offering, let's just remember that God's after a cheerful giver. He's asking us to give from our ability. He's asking us to do it in faith. He's asking us to do it from our heart. And so once that goes in, the feeling you should be overwhelmed with is just joy and gratitude and worship. Do you know that? And so if when you imagine putting it in, you feel a little uncomfortable and a little sick to your stomach, like I should not have done that, then you're not done thinking about what that number should be, okay? So we want no resentment, no expectation. God doesn't owe you anything at this point. The only feeling should be joy and maybe a little bit of I wish I could do more, but that's it. So I'm going to ask God's rich blessing on this offering, and then we're going to stand and sing and give, and then I'll close this up as we head out of here. God, we're excited about partnering with you in real time and engaging our hearts in a new level with you and growing in our faith, in our walk with you, experiencing the deeper source of life and trust with you. God, we're excited to give our lives away to reach the people that you died to save. With you, God, we are excited to engage in your mission. Lord, we are excited to support and strengthen and expand the church that you died to save, your bride, the body of Christ, and we're excited to do that with you. God, this is not something we are doing for you, it's something we're doing with you. And so we thank you for the work, the miraculous work that you've done in our hearts, in our minds, through our hard work and savings and wisdom. And now in faith, God, we ask that you would bless richly this offering. Lord, you know what we need it to be for us to move forward, but you are the one who has inspired it. You are the one who has spoken it into our hearts and minds. So we just invite you into this moment. God, I pray this would just be a holy act of worship, that you would just feel all the pleasure of us loving you with the stuff that you've entrusted to our care, and freely giving to others. So we ask your rich blessing on this offering, and we give you our hearts. In Jesus' name.